Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast, your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. I'm your host, Dr. Benjamin Alter.
I'm your co-host, Dr. Susanna Alter.
Hope you guys have had a happy and healthy holidays. And I know we're not through the holiday season. I feel like it kind of goes through New Year's. Obviously, New Year's parties are around the corner, and what happens after New Year's is often resolutions. So we wanted to take advantage of this time, this opportunity to discuss our perspective on New Year's resolutions, specifically how to optimize your mindset to put you into the trajectory of succeeding and having a sustainable and successful New Year's resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, I guess, with regard to health habits, diets, lifestyles, these kind of things. So we're going to be talking about the mindset to sustain healthy habits.
Mm-hmm. And we've come up with the 3 C's for going into the New Year's.
The 3 C's.
Ben, why don't you tell us about the 3 C's?
Well, should we just take them one by one and kind of dig them apart?
Okay.
So the first C is commitment. And Susanna, what comes to mind for you when I bring up the idea of commitment?
Well, honestly, what comes up for me is some negative thoughts. So that'd be good to dive into. But what comes up for me when I think of commitment is discipline. Discipline for when it comes to trying to change oneself or improve oneself. However, when I think about commitment in a different sense, like commitment to a relationship, it brings on a whole nother flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So what comes up for you when you think of commitment?
Well, to me, when I think of commitment, I think of obviously, holding your word, staying true to your word. And I think that I like to see commitment as like this muscle kind of that we can develop and strengthen, and we can strengthen our sense of commitment to ourselves and in a relationship. And we do that by exercising in ways that, sustainably support these small steps that incrementally increase the strength of commitment. And I think in our world, in our society, we are we're so quick to make really big commitments. For example, I like to use an example of, running a marathon and training for a marathon. And we say, okay, I'm going to run, 1 hour a day, 7 days a week, no ifs, ands, or buts, and I'm going to go out and do it. And that sounds like a really kind of inspiring commitment that maybe some people would make. But part of me feels like, well, that's really, should we make that big of a commitment? Maybe if we're not ready for that. And rather than committing to something really big that might be really difficult to sustain, it really is supportive to create small commitments. For example, committing to walking 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and when we commit to something small like that, we can succeed every day because it's easy to get up and walk, and maybe it's 20 minutes or maybe it's 15 minutes depending on where you are, but it's easy to make small commitments that we can hold. And rather than doing it 7 days a week, we can do it 5 days a week. And that way, if we don't feel well, then we can let ourselves off the hook, so to speak, and not beat ourselves down for it. So the idea of commitment to me is all about is all about a realistic place where you can actually 100% fulfill your commitment to yourself. No questions, no ifs, ands, or buts. And it doesn't have to be something extraordinarily complex or big or overwhelming. It can be something really small. And the idea is that we can, in staying true to our word and fulfilling our commitments, we strengthen this inner resilience and this inner ability to follow through, which I think a lot of people might just be a little, when they break a commitment, maybe people say, oh, well, it's just that it was just whatever the commitment might be, it's no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And while it isn't a big deal, and it's great to let yourself off the hook and not beat yourself up, creating that, resilience and that sense of fulfillment and following through, I think is really supportive.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, I was reflecting on my initial reaction when you brought up the word commitment, and I said how sometimes that can bring some negative feelings up. And I think what the real distinction is between the kind of commitment that makes me feel like very happy and supported versus the kind of commitment that makes me feel kind of negative is framing it in the sense of commitment towards oneself versus commitment to some other kind of outside thing in life, whether it's I'm committed to going to this meeting, or I'm committed to, even if it's framed, I'm committed to walking, or I'm committed to this marathon. When it's reframed to I'm committed to myself and therefore I am going to walk, that brings on a whole new energy to me. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important when we think about commitment to think about the most important relationship in life, which is your relationship with yourself, because you really deserve to have a committed relationship with yourself.
I like that. Committed relationship with yourself. Yeah. And that brings me to, I thought of these 3 C's for a successful mindset for New Year's resolutions. But that brings me to kind of take a step back. And, even before these 3 C's, I think the first step to take is really to be clear with the intention and be clear with where that intention is coming from. And I think all successful resolutions, so to speak, come from a really loving, compassionate place, and a place of, that commitment, that committed relationship with oneself. So, yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Well, so the first C is commitment. And I love starting with that committed relationship with yourself and then creating an action plan, so to speak, that you can realistically 100%, no questions, no ifs, ands, or buts, fulfill. And it doesn't have to be extravagant or extraordinary. It can be really small. And, in that running example, training for a marathon, if you commit to walking 5 days a week and you end up running 3 days a week, or running 3 days a week and then walking the remaining 4, then obviously you're fulfilling your commitment. But not only that, you are succeeding the commitment. And that even increases those, those feelings of fulfilling your word and following through, which are so important. Mm-hmm. So even though you make a commitment, obviously we are free to go above and beyond our commitments. And that's great. So in addition to commitment, the second C that I wanted to talk about was creativity. And what do you think about when I bring up creativity? What comes to mind for you?
Well, this is really beautiful. And I think it's important that people really embrace their creativity when they think about what kind of resolutions they want to make for themselves in this next year. Because really, you are the only one who knows what's best for yourself and what your body, mind, or soul really needs this coming year. So when I think of creativity, I just think of kind of relaxing and allowing whatever inspiration is present for you to really come forward. And that shows up in so many different ways, in so many different people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. That connection with the infinite potential, and that connection with the wisdom, that connection with the creative potential. And yeah, I guess, why we're talking about creativity is because, once again, rather than coming from a place of, well, I know everyone is losing weight and I know I've got to lose weight. So this is my this is my commitment, this is my resolution, and it's not coming from a very divinely creative or inspired place.
Right.
It's coming from a place of, I don't know, self-criticism and lacking and unworthiness, maybe. So coming from a place of creativity is certainly important. And in addition to that, underlying intention of where our resolutions are coming from, what I also think about when it comes to creativity is just having no attachments to expectations or outcomes, and allowing things to flow and allowing yourself to be in the flow of what happens. And for example, if there is a weight release resolution or something, maybe you want to lose a pound a week for the year, 12, 50, I guess that's a lot, but I don't know, maybe there's some weight release goal or something like that. And even if you like lose a pound and then gain 2 pounds and then lose another pound and gain 4 pounds, and, just being accepting and releasing your attachments to expectations. And, because in the long run, I think that we're all going to be doing okay as long as we release those expectations and attachment. And that kind of lets us off the hook to fulfill and live into what is in our potential as human beings on this planet.
Mm-hmm. But I really like what you said about allowing the ideas for your resolutions to come from inside versus looking around you and basing your decisions off of what you're seeing other people do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to be connected with that creativity. And another kind of phrase or word that comes to mind when I'm talking about creativity is this beginner's mindset, and this mindset that allows you to just approach challenges and approach things from a very open and inviting perspective, rather than having a rigidity that we need to work through things. So I think creativity with it brings flexibility, and it brings openness and all of these things that ultimately I feel like really help sustain resolutions, sustain goals. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that sense of openness, because the more we're open to the creativity bubbling up, the more we're willing to kind of to go along with that creativity. Because I think a lot of times people get these really awesome ideas, but they don't make sense in the moment. Like, why am I feeling like I want to go on this walk right now rather than doing this exercise program that I told myself I would do, for example? And who knows where that walk is going to take you?
Literally. Yeah.
So I know we're using this example of weight release, but there's I think just because that is a very common thing to hear a lot of people kind of seeking, but this goes for any kind of resolution that you're wanting to bring into the new year.
Yes, and this brings us to the last C, this last C that will support you in cultivating a successful mindset for your New Year's resolutions and fulfilling those things. And this one is undoubtedly the most important, and that's compassion. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, is like, where is this intention coming from? Where is this resolution coming from? Is it coming from a place of self-criticism and perfectionism and unworthiness and self-improvement? Or is it coming from a place of complete unconditional love for oneself and self-acceptance? So obviously it's really, really, really important to be coming from that place of unconditional love and acceptance, which, it's really ironic to me, because we can set all of these intentions and resolutions to change, but really the most important resolution that I feel like I'm making in this new year is to be more accepting. So to like making a resolution that I don't need any resolutions. And that's really hard because I feel like personally, I feel very much of a perfectionist, and I always want to be better, smarter, faster, all of these things. And it's important to, in the process, be okay striving for greatness, striving for more, but the prerequisite for authentic growth is self-acceptance.
Mhm.
And we can't grow without a really strong foundation of self-love and self-acceptance. And, you know, we can grow, but maybe we'll get knocked down, or we won't be as resilient in our growth.
Mm.
So really starting from the place of a compassionate foundation, I think, is really, really important. And I feel like often overlooked in our world of outer results. And, you know, we're always seeking and striving for more. And, you know, I can really honestly connect with that. And I think that just kind of changing the focus of the intention and just remembering that ultimately creating that really strong foundation from which we grow is really important.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love what you said about how if there were any resolution that you're making, it's to become more accepting, because the truth is that all this external stuff outside of yourself is a result of whatever process is going on inside. And so if I were to think of a resolution for me, it's very similar to yours, Ben, is to bring more acceptance into my everyday life about not only myself, but also about what's going on in my external environment, and actually doing less of trying to change. And it sounds like that's the opposite of a resolution, because a resolution is all about change, improve. But I honestly see a lot more benefit coming from falling back and accepting. Not in a passive way, in a way that is loving and compassionate, if that makes any sense.
Of course. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, how can we articulate that a little bit better?
Well, I think that it's a feeling more than it's an understanding and a feeling more than an articulation. And I guess I also want to speak for a moment about this idea of change and growth and development. And I think that I think there's a lot of striving in the world for personal growth and development, and I think that's great. And I think you know, there's a huge field, and the whole self-help books and all, like everything that's out there is so great. And it's interesting that they all kind of subtly in their own ways point towards self-acceptance. And it makes me think that there's really the path to, I don't know, whatever we're going for, enlightenment, or whatever these self-help and self-improvement courses and everything, whatever they're pointing towards, the path is really short. And the path, I think, is really a matter of how much we can unconditionally love and accept ourselves in any moment. And that's what life is for. Life is for providing those opportunities to learn how to expand our capacity to be loving and compassionate and accepting with ourselves and with others. And yes.
Yeah. I think the more we accept ourselves and others, the less we see needs to be changed about ourselves.
Yeah. Then the change comes just naturally.
Right. It comes from that creativity.
Yeah, it comes naturally.
Yes. Your behaviors will naturally change in a way that makes you feel healthier and makes you feel more beautiful and makes whatever it is that you're looking for. And then in terms of changing the external world, the other things that are going on outside of you, that creativity will also bring solutions to those issues that that you feel passionate about.
Totally. 100%. So back to kind of the physical world and the nuts and bolts of changing, because resolution and New Year's is a time that maybe inspires like real actionable change around eating, around exercising, around work, around family, anything. I think it's really important to consider these 3 C's. First, the intention, where we're coming from in our resolution. Second, a sense of commitment and really setting ourselves up for success and not biting off more than we can chew, so to speak. Third is that second C of creativity and just being open to the flow and not being rigid with our expectations and our thinking around how something should be. And finally, that compassion. And I think regardless of what your goals are, if you infuse these principles into your New Year's resolutions, I think you'll absolutely be successful. And when it comes to the nuts and bolts of living into your New Year's resolutions, I think maybe it's a good time to share how Suzanne and I are going to be offering this 10-day group coaching around specifically nutrition and how to master living a plant-based lifestyle, and answering any questions and talking about topics that might be that you might be curious about. And the intention is for this 10-day group coaching to be interactive. We have kind of a curriculum that we're going to be going over. Mm-hmm. And we're going to leave lots of room to speak to your specific questions. So if you'd like to learn more, go ahead and check it out at alter.health/10-day group coaching. I think that's the URL. And we'll, of course, put a link in alter.health/episode 59.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we realize that we have met a lot of people who are interested in adopting a plant-based lifestyle, or even just bringing more plants into their life and reducing the amount of animal products.
Right.
Maybe not going cold turkey, but they're a little like plant-based curious, or have no intention of cutting out the meat permanently, but just want more nutritional information.
Yeah, even if you're not willing or open to take whatever steps to go into a full plant-based whatever, the intention is just to steer you and steer us and steer everybody in the direction of sustainable health through food.
Yeah, because we find a lot of people, they come up against common obstacles, such as, how do I incorporate this into my busy life where I'm working long hours at the office, and what groceries do I buy? What are some easy things that I can incorporate into my day? And so we're going to be answering all these questions and so much more.
Yes. So hope to see you there. And if you have any more questions about that, just go check it out at alter.health. And on that note, it's been nice talking with you. And
we're excited.
Else for you?
Well, tonight we're eating at Green Space Cafe in Ferndale, Michigan.
Yes, Dr. Joel Kahn's restaurant here in Detroit area.
Yeah.
And
if you live in the Detroit area, it's a must go to. Especially if you're adopting this plant-based lifestyle. It is a good place to go to for recipes and inspiration to maybe bring home to your kitchen. Yeah. Anyways, okay,
that's enough. We'll talk to you next time. I guess it'll be the new year. So wishing you all a really happy and healthy new year, and we'll see you on the other side, 2019.
All right.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.